Webinars, webinar options, and things that make the most sense for you to do when live streaming. Coming up next on Saturday morning, Marketing Smarties. Wave at everybody, Jim. Good day, everybody. A show that I've been looking forward to for a while. And now that we're here, wow, it's like almost overwhelming, the concept. Hi, my name is Roland. Welcome to Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. I'm coming to you from Southern California, and my company is MinMax Media, where I bring you the minimum you need for the maximum impact. Sponsoring the DIY live streaming show.com website, where we play this show for you every Saturday morning Marketing Smarties. Now, from where I am occupying the last hour of Saturday before it's no longer Saturday morning. But I realize you're coming to me possibly from the opposite side of the world, possibly. We have people from New Zealand, Australia, Europe, Britain, and so forth, all across the United States. So when they tune in, all of a sudden we're kind of global. I thought that Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties was going to be a show for a little group of people in Orange County in Southern California. And soon after I started, I realized, wow, everybody that I'm meeting is like all over the world. So I could not keep my pea brain focused on the local scene anymore when I realized the message that I had was more universal than that. And it does not apply to everybody, but applies to a lot of people. So glad to have you if you're tuning in, and thank you for joining us. And when I say us, I mean Tim and me in the green room. So Tim, why don't you turn your mic on and say hi and tell everybody a little bit about yourself before I go on an hour-long rant.
All right, Roland. And we all know how Roland likes to rant. I'm Tim Longwell from Longwell Art. I'm in southeastern Oklahoma in a little town called Atoka. We help you reignite your creativity to gain the benefits of both mental and physical health. And you learn to turn your dreams, memories, ideas, and photos into works of fine art. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, we'll do that for you.
Very cool. And I'm really glad to have you with me today, Tim. And as the people in the audience start to assemble, we'll be counting on you as usual to bring their voice to life here and give them a little bit of input for this session today. And I'm perfectly able to take this hour and obliterate it by using everything that I have packed up in my brain and expressing it to you folks. But I don't want to do that. What I want to do is ignite a conversation. Oh, maybe I better stop whiteboxing you so that people realize it is me talking. What I want to do is ignite a conversation that involves you people out there and us in the green room, and exchange the information so that we all benefit. Because I can't know all and see all. I see quite a bit, but I don't know all and see all. And even as we were preparing for today, I realized, man, there's so many new things all the time. So what this is today, what I hope to achieve is a couple things. Number one, to give you an overview of what kind of things are available and so forth. The different platforms, rough comparison, not a really commensurate A/B to C testing because I just don't have time to do that. And for the purposes of today, it's not really the important thing. And then we're going to talk about a new concept of selling or promoting your business that is absolutely not selling. And it's going to be the hardest thing for me to convey because it doesn't make sense to any marketers anywhere, because the purpose of marketers is to help you sell your products or services. Age-old problem, how to make money, right? But you can draw the line between what you do, what you love to do, especially. Now, not just what you do, because a lot of people do what they do not love. But if you're doing what you love, I guarantee you there's a way to make money at it. And if you focus on it, you'll be the best of what you do, loving what you do, doing it better than anyone, and you'll have the following that results in people hiring you for the services or products that you sell. It's the natural way of the universe. And perhaps nobody believes me. I don't blame them exactly, but I really wish that they would consider that, because I think they'll find a lot of truth to it. And then the other thing that we want to approach, and we're going to do this somewhat first, is the concept of why webinars. Why webinars? Because everywhere you turn, somebody's got a webinar. But here's the premise. We're going to attack this subject first. And basically, it's like webinars have given webinars a bad name. Why is that? Well, think about it. Every time you say webinar, what do you think about? Okay, you're going to have this half an hour long or hour long presentation, and they're going to pitch me something at the end and try to close me. So they're going to be really nice about stuff, hand us some information, get us all pumped up and excited about something, and then they're going to say, yeah, but to really experience the true happiness, you have to do this. And then that's how they lead you to the trough where you're supposed to drink. And of course, you got to pay to play. So they get you excited and you get you all pumped up and enthusiastic with their little machinations on video or on their slides. And the furthermore of it all is it blows my mind how a lot of people think that not ever showing up on video, just having slides and a voice is the best way to do this. They invest a lot of money in this and never show their face. And personally, I think that they're missing out on something. And people have this concept like, oh, well, I don't look good on camera. Oh, well, you know, people aren't going to like what I look like, or I do weird things with my, whatever it is that they have that keeps them from wanting to be on camera. I think that they're losing more by not trying it than if they actually made use of that, because the people in the audience want to know who you are. And so I think that they make a lot of big deal about whether they look good on camera or not, when they don't realize that the impact of showing who they are and being a human being and letting the audience connect with that completely, they don't realize the impact of the value of that. So I think that's what's missing, and that's what I think is missing from podcasts. It's the same thing. Now, we'll have another discussion later on in this month or so, before the end of the year, on podcasts. Because a podcast, they're starting to talk about it interchangeably, that a podcast and a live streaming video cast are basically the same thing, podcast or video cast, whatever. And they're starting to blend in definition. And the one thing to remember is that when you do a podcast, except for the crossover of the video podcast, which is a video cast, not a podcast, but they're calling it all the same thing. Unless you're doing video, it's a visually non-invasive, non-impactful methodology. So it's sound only, but you have to think, why do people want that? Because they're doing something else. They're not focusing on what you're delivering so much, they might be lost in that, but they're also on a treadmill, or they're also driving, or they're also doing multitasking, and so they're absorbing your podcast. And there's a value to that, but it's not the same as a webinar. It's not the same as live streaming. So there are a lot of things to consider there. But anyway, why webinars? Well, without getting into it, people know that there's going to be a major movement into video more and more. And that's because of the law of diffusion taking the very slow movement from the early adopters to the majority of the adopters that come in, the main wave. And that'll be like next year and the year after, maybe just approaching the year 2020. But right now we're in 2017, and I've been shouting live streaming for 3 years and going on 4. And yet we're in the early adopter stage. So you can kind of see how slow this movement is, but it's going to come on more and more. And there are going to be more and more platforms, more and more ways to do this. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter what platform you choose. It matters that you choose one and go for it and make the best of that platform, hopefully one that suits your purposes so you can do what you want to do on video. So the why is simple. There's nothing more impactful than seeing somebody on the camera and realizing that's Roland, that's Tim. By golly, I don't have to guess one iota when I say Tim. I can see him there, and I have a perfect picture of who Tim is. And then when I'm going away and someone says, oh yeah, Tim that works with Roland on that on Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, they know exactly who I'm talking about. And they have a good feeling about him. Because, well, I hope so, Tim. And they definitely do have a good feeling about him. And they understand who he is and what's going on. So funny, because Aaron was looking at his picture that I had posted in there. And I don't think that's the best picture of Tim, but it's the best one I had at the time. And I put that up there, and he goes, something about that mean-looking guy in the picture there. And Tim is anything but mean. But it's funny how a picture can convey the concept of somebody and yet not really show in an authentic way who that person is. Now, if you watch Tim in any number of Saturday's shows, the Marketing Smarties shows, you're going to know what Tim is all about. You're going to say, oh yeah, Tim. And you're going to feel good about him. And that's the feeling that's left that reaches so far beyond his picture. So, I mean, in a few words, we're explaining what the value of video is. And the other thing about video is if it's not produced and edited and packaged and then prepared, but this is live streaming. I'm really here right now recording this, and it's the same thing that you're going to see tomorrow and the next day and whenever. So it's kind of a forever thing. And then that's the value of live streaming. You can't get much more authentic than live streaming. So one of the things that I read about statistics about webinars, and this was kind of an interesting thing. Mequoda, which is I think it's a reasonably new company, MEQUODA.com, and they produce a lot of articles, and they have a lot of data, blog information. And Mequoda had an article that proclaimed that 84% of people are visual learners. Now, if 84% of people are visual learners, that's a misleading concept, because right now they're saying everyone's going on to cell phones and they're not reading as much, and then so it's misleading as far as what the value of that 84% is and what that extrapolates out to when we say, well, if that's the case, then what are we supposed to do? And so what I wanted to make clear was that 84% of the people are prone to watch videos more than auditory productions, perhaps. But that's an assumption on my part because I think that a lot of people like audio also. And because of the lifestyle of people, sometimes they are not going to be prone to reaching for something visual just because of the nature of what they're doing. So the marketers out there are saying, well, how is that supposed to make a decision between podcasting with audio only or video casting with live streaming video? Well, the 80%, 84, the figure that McQuota states is supposed to lead us to live streaming or lead us to video, producing more videos, making it visual, because that's the thing. And people can go that direction and say, oh, I guess I got to really concentrate on the visual. And it may or may not be true depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. So, statistics set aside, we have to watch how we extrapolate out the statistics that are handed to us. But the bottom line of the whole thing is we know that visual is very, very important. For a decade now, we've been incorporating imagery, photos, and emerging into video and all these things. So do we really need people to quote us more statistics? Do we really need more than Ted Rubin in December of 2016 to say the biggest marketing trend for 2017 is going to be live streaming? That was enough for me. But everyone's quoting statistics and what Cisco is going to say and everything else. But let's just get on board and consider that live streaming is something that you must think about. And if you're going to be an early adopter, you don't have much more time to be an early adopter. You really don't. But it's probably going to be the next 2 to 3 years where the wave is continuing on with the early adoption stage. After 2018, 19, and certainly after 2020, the bulk of the world is going to be in the midst of a live streaming era. This is the early adoption stage, but by 2020, we're going to be in the middle of the era. Everyone is going to be perfecting their skills on camera, and it's going to be something of a mess probably. But the way to stand out is to use it wisely and not worry about grabbing everybody. You just want to grab your tribe and build your tribe. And the way to do that is to do it. And it's not so much a marketing thing. I think that it's a content production thing that you just got to get out there and express yourself. So that's my job, is to encourage you to express yourself. Now, that's me mouthing off for quite a few minutes there, so I'll move on. That concerns the why of why you want to do live streaming, because you really can't get more impactful and more authentic than if you put yourself on video. So I'm convinced. Are you? If you're not, talk to Tim, talk to me, and we'll convince you. Now, I wanted to play a few slides here to show people what other people are saying, not just Roland. So I've got a little bit of a slideshow. And I could have rehearsed this more, but I'm just going to play along and we'll discover it together, okay? That was a question, why live streaming? So the top ranking marketing blog, it's a blog online, of course, and they have a lot of articles, and they're really just focusing on SEO and stuff like that, getting ranking in the search engines. And so they have these statistics that they've come up with. They say 66% of B2B marketers said webinars are one of the most effective content marketing strategies around, according to as recent report. Oh, pardon me, they wrote that wrong, or maybe I wrote it wrong. according to a recent report from Content Marketing Institute. In addition, 51% of the marketers said visual content will be a top priority in 2016. So that's a year ago that this came out. Here's another one. With over 60% of marketers using webinars as part of their content marketing programs and 76% of the 17 largest SaaS companies, that's software as a service companies in the world, are using marketing automation, it's clear that these tools are becoming increasingly essential to today's marketers and American Marketing Association. So one of the takeaways here is this is for big corporate marketing view, that what they see is that more and more people are using video marketing and webinars and also automation in their marketing. So it's a dual clue there. And then last one from the Huffington Post. They are the next best thing to being face-to-face in person with your target market. If you want to leverage yourself and scale your business, webinars are the key. By being the person at the helm, you set yourself as an expert. It's your virtual stage. Nick Unsworth. Now, this is all good and well. It's a very important thing to realize that it's the next best thing to be in face-to-face. When people watch a video, they feel like, wow, I actually feel like I know you. And that's the feeling, that's the bridge you want to cross by using video as your platform. And then the person on the other side feels like, I feel like I know you. So that's the point of it all. Because when you get to that point, then you can step into the realm of influence. And if people don't know you, they're not going to like and trust you. And then you're never going to get to the point where what you say may influence people to follow you or buy your product or recommend you to people who also need what you have to sell. So these are just some important aspects of that. I wanted to share that. And as I'm going on here, there are a couple things that I predict in the future are going to have a big impact. So I'm handing this to you now. And I think that you might want to try them. So let's come back on the screen share. The two things that I recommend you checking out, could have made that look a little better. Number one is golightstream.com. that I've done some research on, but you should do some too. It's basically you can live stream for free, very lightweight, easy to do, and you can be checking it out and doing it right now and just go click a button and all of a sudden you're live streaming. So go over there and check it out. I think it's something that people will use to get started and possibly more than that. And it might be something that they can live stream and transplant and use to affect their websites and so forth. So I think it's worth looking into. Also, Anchor.fm. Anchor.fm, we've tried it. You can upload audio files of practically any size. If I wanted to upload a Saturday morning marketing Smarties show, which is an hour plus long, it'll take the whole thing and turn it into an audio broadcast. And Anchor, let's see, I'll stop sharing here. And Anchor.fm wants to be the YouTube of the audio market. In other words, they're not going to get into videos, but Anchor as an audio archives and presenting platform kind of replaces the need to do a lot of the things that podcasts need to do as far as archiving it, the delivery and so forth, all that stuff. They've got it all wrapped up into a single concept, and they are free. Now, they've also got iPhone apps and the Android apps, so that they're commensurate with all those things, and of course, delivery over the internet. You can deliver these virtually all devices, and the whole thing is free, and it's really, really clean, and it really works well. Now, from what I see, this could be my alternative when I want to take a show like today, if it's worth translating, and turn it into an audio broadcast and make a RSS feed series out of it and get people listening over their iPhones or their smartphones. Anchor.fm can do that. So I predict that it'll be worth looking into. And Tim's bringing something. Let's see what we have. Oh, it's
Yeah,
Andrew.
yep, Andrew Hatchett. He says, in his opinion, the early adopter train's already left the station. Now it's the mainline train that is boarding passengers. And that is something that the big convention that Daryl leaves for YouTube and several of the people that are prominent in video marketing and using video for marketing and to create podcasts with, as in Second Avenue and such, they all agree that the early adopters are on board. They're out in front. The train is boarding behind us. We are in the place to be if we are already early adopters.
Sounds good. And that's what it looks like to me. I feel like we're on the main wave right now, but the main wave is just barely getting steam. That's how it feels. Because what I was saying 3 years ago about you got to do video, you got to have a show, and nobody was listening to me. I couldn't talk any of my clients into doing it, so I said, "To hell with it! I'm just going to do it myself." And that's how I got started. The motivation to show people what, put my money where my mouth was, so to speak, and actually do what I'm telling everybody else they should be doing. And I kind of got fed up with the industry anyway. So anyway, more of Roland's rants if I'm not careful. Okay, so let's go back to this. We're going to talk about platforms now. I want to do a real quick study over about 5 or 6 of them and see what people think. So when we say, first of all, one of the earliest statements I made here was webinars have given webinars a bad name, and the whole concept is that you're forced into this concept of buying something at the end, and it leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth. But what if you removed that aspect from the concept of webinars? What could you get done? What could you leave people with if you weren't selling at the end? If you were just delivering your webinar and teaching people something, giving them value, improving their lives, doing all these things that we talk about but don't seem to accomplish by giving in the first place, and then we don't taint the end of that by saying, and by the way, now that leads us to this, and I think this is a great thing that you should have, and it only costs this much. How do you feel when they transfer into the cell? I hate it myself. It's like getting down to the last few bits of a sales page when you realize, they're just kind of forcing you into the buy-in, and just you feel the pressure, and you feel like an idiot if you don't do it, and you feel like you're being cheap and all of those things. So those things are what sales webinars are designed around. And by golly, it works. But I believe personally that there's a different way to promote and sell yourself. And that's what I'm insinuating here. So anyway, when we consider those things, I want to take the stigma of what a webinar platform or delivery service or app that a webinar is not does not have to be a negative thing, and that we can approach it from a different standpoint. And I call it my live streaming show. You can call it something else, or you can call it a webinar. But let's get around the whole stigma of what makes the webinars feel negative. And that's one of the things that I want to conquer today. So let's come back over to this. There are 5 platforms that I highlighted for today. And here they are. So I'm just going to go down the list and do a little study briefly and describe them to you. And then I won't really rest too long on any one of them, but I'll tell you what my impression is on these. Well, first of all, GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar, they're the grandfather of all of them. And they have various intro offers and things, but basically, if you become a subscriber, it's going to cost you a minimum of $695 a year. And most of these figures that you see on this board are based on yearly payments in advance of 1 year, or I have it listed there in one case of $39 a month for Webinar Geo, but that was the only exception to that. But anyway, GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar is $695. And they're a pretty good platform. But even though they are what they are, I still had people tell me that they have technical glitches, and so they're not, just because they've been around one of the longest times, it doesn't mean that they're better at it than everybody else. So we'll keep that in mind. Now, Webinar Jam is like a real new upswing right now. They've done a major overhaul and major upgrades, and by golly, I think that they're pretty good. I just have a problem with the marketers at the top that have been hammering me for months now about how I should be buying their product. Plus, I hate the fact that their webpage, whenever you refresh their webpage, they have an automatic autoplay video that I just get sick of this guy's voice. So that's just me. But that autoplay video at the start is enough to make me turn the page. So you might want to consider that when you're doing your own marketing. Webinar Geo is also a pretty good platform. $39 a month, or totals out to $468 a year. I think that works out to $39 a month, but I think that their monthly, if they have one, is actually a higher rate. And Zoom, they're basically free, and then they have an upgrade of $180 a year. But if you want to do live streaming the way I do for the Smarties show, it's going to cost you about $579. Now, BeLive TV is probably the most cost effective, but it does not have the best features. It has some good features, not necessarily the best. Now, the one of the big factors on all these cases, and I guess I can stop sharing this. One of the big factors in all these cases were which ones of these platforms can I use to show my show in my website? Now, if that's a big thing to you, then you have further research to do, because I don't think you can have a GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar broadcast right in your website. Maybe you can, but that's something that I do not know. Webinar Jam, you can, and Webinar Geo, I don't know. Zoom, you cannot, unless you upgrade to $579. And BeLive TV is only in Facebook. Now, the option, the caveat to this whole thing is you can find ways to live stream to your website. That's what my VCP plugin is, and I think that it should be on the board with those things. But it's a different concept because it's free, and there's more to kind of creating an event, and takes a little bit more work, but the idea is it's free. And most of the pricing here, the cheapest being BeLive TV, is going to be even cost prohibitive to some people on the lowest end. And then everything else is $400 or $500 or $600 on up. That's going to be cost prohibitive to a larger group of people. So what my market is encouraging people to get started. So I can help them get started for free. And if we really compare these things, I don't think that the VCP plugin is lacking so much. But here's what these platforms do that the VCP plugin does not. It allows you, most of them allow you a registry and a more control over your audience, which can be implemented by other plugins in WordPress, but I don't get into that. But anyway, if you're going to upgrade to these various platforms, that's the reason that you would do it, because they offer you more management tools, accounting tools, analytic tools, and this type of thing, so you can work with your audience even better. So that's one of the things you pay for in the midst of this. So when you consider the upgrade, then why would you do it? Well, I might do it myself, and I might do Webinar Jam. I'm probably going to do BeLive TV, mainly because both of them have ways of being compatible with my plugin, and I could drive this to my website. But those are options in the future that I would want to use. But most of them do not real easily produce a web production for your website. And that's a real problem for me. Anyway, that's the general overview of it. If I were to comment on video quality, probably one of the best ones is Zoom. Probably the next best is Webinar Jam, and everything else lags behind. The effectiveness as far as audience engagement, here's something that you want to consider. People use the word engagement, they don't really describe what engagement is or how good it is. And they think you talking to people on a video is engagement, or they think that people being in the audience and saying hi, that's engagement. But oh my God, I'm forgetting. We want to display this comment by WeWake from the other day. So I'm going to prepare this. And the reason that is, he told a little bit of a story. And the story, let me just read. I'm going to read this to you. So WeWake's story said, my very first client became a client after watching my webinar, but here are the 3 main points. I had met this person, number 1, I had met this person in real life before in a networking event, and I told her about an upcoming webinar. 2, she had actually put in a negative comment in the feedback form complaining that the webinar was not detailed enough. So 3, it was up to me to turn this negative feedback into positive and turning her into my very first client. So here's the moral of the story. And by golly, I sure went through a lot to try to get this to you right now. But that's all right. The moral of the story is it all depends on how you handle it. Webinar is a tool. The result you will get will depend on how you use it. So comment well taken, because it's what I've been saying for years. All these things are tools, but if you don't know how to use the tools and don't use it in a smart fashion, the tool doesn't make a bit of difference. So what is the underlying reason for all this concept of webinar? It's for engagement marketing, it's for relationship building. And if you're not doing that, then it doesn't matter whether you're marketing or whether you're doing webinars or blogs or whatever you're doing. Focusing on smartphones, it doesn't matter, because the bottom line is people want to make contact with you to find out more. And if you can't help them, then you lose. So if we one of the best things we can do is focus on the delivering of value and not worrying about trying to monetize people in the back end. And that's a hard concept for people to follow. But I think that if we've worked at it enough, we discovered that it is actually true. So one of the things I wanted to quote to you was something that Simon Sinek presented. And I'm going to bring that up in just a moment. But I want to wrap the concept of webinars that have given webinars a bad name. I've known this for a while, and one of the most reinforcing things that made me believe this was that I had a friend. I've had a friend for years, and I said to her one day, "Hey, why don't you come join us on my Saturday morning marketing Smarty show?" And her response was, "Oh, I don't do webinars." So right away, she basically categorized my show, which she has never seen, as a webinar. And she told me flat out, she goes, "I don't do webinars. They always try to sell you something at the end." In other words, she was telling me, "I don't want to hear your pitch because it's bound to be coming." Now, this is a friend of mine that we had never brought up the concept of my show, and yet this is what she thought. And she's another marketer. She's a social media specialist. And so she said that. I thought, okay. I had to take that with me and digest the concept that she had a complete aversion to webinars based on the fact that she thought that they were for selling. Now, I don't think that she's the only one. I think that everyone has some kind of negative feeling, regardless of whether you're a marketer or not. Everyone has some kind of a negative feeling about it. I don't want the negative feeling. I don't think that we have to live with it. And I think that there are ways around it. People nowadays are speaking of ways to be different and to stand out in the midst of a crowd that is so much competitive and in the mainstream. And here's what everybody's doing. And I say, I don't need to compete. I will be different because I am different, and I just need to express myself. Because when you express yourself, people will say, "Oh yeah, Roland's different. Oh yeah, Tim's different." But they don't know until you get on there and show them who you are. So let's analyze what Simon Sinek said. One of the things he said is, "I've learned that the best way to present an idea is to come with a spirit of giving." Yay, Simon. The best way to present an idea is to come with a spirit of giving. And then I've got little excerpts of the rest of it that I pieced together so it says what I wanted to say. No, actually, it says what he said. I just picked out the important parts. ... Show up with the intention to give, the desire to give, and no desire for anything in return. People become fans, curious for more. And that's when the ideas of trust and cooperation start to evolve. This makes the presentation vastly more effective. Now, he said that in a little short video that he made. And my takeaway is that it's the whole concept that we have of giving first and coming with true giving, because if you expect something in return, it's not giving, it's trading, it's baiting, it's selling. But he says, and no desire for anything in return. And people become fans for more. Now that feeling of them wanting to follow you, wanting to listen to you, consume more of your stuff. That's what you want. You don't want to lure them into a motif where they're doing something that they don't want to do just to get $1 out of them on the back end. What you want to do is lead them to the solution to their problem and guide them towards success and good feelings, and let yourself lead them to the point where they want to pay you something, and it's going to result in money one way or another. Now, other people, all the marketers out there are going to say, Roland, you're so full of shit. But I don't believe I am. And those of you who want to tell me one way or the other, that's fine. And your comments are welcome, and let me know what you think. But that's the bottom line. And webinars do not have to be the negative thing that people feel that they are. So let's go about changing the feeling of webinars and make them more educational based and so forth. So someone's saying something, Tim?
Yep. Andrew, yeah, the webinars and anymore, the word webinar equals sales pitch, and people don't want to be sold to it all. And even the research that Google's putting out lately on the phones and everything is they're looking for information. They don't want to be sold. If you're trying to push them into a sales, they will walk away.
Exactly. And so the concept that we have to adopt is a new way to get followers to follow us without having to worry about being closing the sale, the whole concept of closing the sale. Basically, I've talked about this before, that I want people to follow me. I want people to buy my stuff, but I want them to buy because they want to buy, not because that I push them into the sale. Something I've been saying for years now on this show is that people love to buy. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. The pressure of you guiding them towards the pocketbook transaction is exactly what the people don't want. They're smart enough and have the facility in today's day and age to be able to buy and do the research that they want to. So the concept of webinars, what are you going to do to change them? How are you going to be different? How are we going to be different and make webinars not a negative thing? That's the challenge that we have today. And we don't have to call them webinars. I think Webinar Jam and Webinar Geo might have a hard time with this just because they've chosen their name. But I mean, as far as that all goes, it's still backed around to what WeWake said. It's just a tool, and what matters is how we use the tool. So I propose that there's going to be a difference in the way that we market in the upcoming future, in this glide of this wave of video. It's going to have a lot of the same thing, a lot more webinars that just want to sell, a lot more of that push marketing, a lot of that salesy stuff that just drives you and me crazy. But it's also a market where if I'm different from that, I can stand out. And I want to be the person that people point to me and say, oh, that's Roland. That dude never sells. He's not pushy when he's promoting or teaching and doing these things. Yeah, I like Roland. I want to be the person that stands out for that reason. And if I don't sell as much as somebody else, I guess that's so be it. But I believe that I'm going to sell as much as anybody in the long run. So that's what I'm working for. And that's basically the message that I have to deliver on this Saturday morning Marketing Smarties show. Tim, do we have anything to wrap up with, or are we about done for the day?
I think we pretty much covered it. Adelheid, I can never say her name right. Sorry, Heidi.
Adelheid, but call her Heidi, yeah.
Yep, I just call her Heidi. She did make a comment. Yes, she is. And she made the comment about Anchor is live, she knew. But to her, they're not quite where they need to be yet for uploading from other, compared to other platforms that seem much better, like SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. And she wanted to know how you felt about those as far as podcasting. And I do know you have a podcasting discussion planned in the near future, so I'll let
The,
you
the
handle that
date
from there.
the date is not the date is not determined, but we are going to have a session on podcasting, which will include the concept of Anchor. But the upload that we did with Anchor was seamless, had no problem, and was retrievable immediately, and played very well. And will, if you don't produce something, it's only as good as the production. So we needed to trim the audio better, and shape it up, and do an intro outro sequence and stuff. But for the most part, I thought it was great. And the vision I had when I came out of that is that I think that this is going to be something in the future. And their business model is that they want to emulate YouTube. In other words, they want to be free on the front end, and they want to support their company with advertising. So as YouTube has advertising and we get fed up with that, they're going to follow a similar suit. So one of the things is that if you don't want the advertising, that's going to be an issue. However, they're going to be a free platform. And if people want to consume something, they're going to put up with the advertising. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. If they're profusely inundated with advertising, then that's going to be the downfall of their platform. But if they control it like YouTube, then they're going to have people complaining about a few things, but still using the hell out of the facility. So I predict that Anchor could have a really big playing part in the podcast competition, if you will, just because they are the platform they are, and they'll be free. So people can get started now, do it, and not have to pay for archiving their stuff or presenting it. It's cost free, just like YouTube. So we'll see what happens. And well, that's about it. I don't think we've ever ended a Saturday morning Marketing Smarties show early, but Roland for once is basically out of wind. Let's see if there's anything that. Oh yeah, I wanted to recommend something to people, and this will take up enough time to close the show. But this guy is one of my new heroes. He and his wife, Scott and Allison Stratton. And they have a website called unmarketing.com. And the whole concept of selling is really attacked forcefully by this website. And that's why it's like right up my alley, right? So you might want to take a look at it and learn a few things that may guide you on the similar path and a complementary path of what I was talking about today. Selling without selling and changing webinars to be a positive thing. So that's one of my recommendations for the future. These people have a really unique concept that's different from everybody, and I have to applaud them. So they've got their titles there. You can see it: the Unblog, Unpodcast, Unspeaking, and Unmarketing. And they're really energized and pleasant to listen to, and I think you'll enjoy them. So that's about the end of it right now. We got anything? Have I instilled any kind of emotion out of you, Tim? Anything you want to add to this?
I'm pretty invigorated about it as far as live goes. As most people that know me know that I was doing a live interview show back several years ago. I've made it no secret that I'm doing recorded videos now. And very soon, probably before the end of the year, I will be going live with one, if not two shows a week live. One to help the new video marketing community for branding and imagery from the basis of an artist's viewpoint. And the other one, I'm looking at an interview program like you have here.
Wow, that's very, very cool, dude. So let us know when that happens. We'll be announcing it too and sharing it with the world, and I'll be probably there backing you up as best I can. All right, so we're going to wrap it up for today, and thank you very much for watching Saturday Morning and Marketing Smarties. Tim and Roland saying goodbye for the day. Thank you. Get a camera and a mic and express yourself. Bye, Tim.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Roland.